I get a lot of feedback from Checkmate viewers saying that, Major, we should discuss weapons. Why don't you tell us about the weapons that India is procuring? It's very important that the Indian armed forces are armed with the best-in-class weaponry and the best-in-class equipment. I agree with you. And today, we're going to discuss some of the weapons that have already been inducted or are being inducted into the Indian armed forces, but with a twist. And the twist is the question: why is India arming itself at such a rapid pace? Hi, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching Checkmate. My mind goes back to the time when India decided and informed the rest of the world that we are going ahead and buying the S-400 air defense systems. These were bought from Russia and most of them have been delivered, some are yet to be delivered. This rubbed everybody the wrong way, our friends and enemies alike. The Pakistanis didn't like it, of course. The Chinese didn't like it. The Americans didn't like it. The Europeans didn't like it, but they didn't say very much. In fact, apart from Russia and India, nobody liked it. And what were the reasons? The reasons were simple. The Chinese thought that if the Indians have S-400, they would have the best air defense system that we, the Chinese, also have. That would nullify any edge that China has over India in terms of air defense systems. Why didn't Pakistan like it? For obvious reasons. Pakistan does not have anything remotely close to the S-400. Very recently, there was a missile, Indian missile, that landed by mistake, a BrahMos missile no less, inside Pakistan. It flew almost 3.5 minutes inside Pakistani airspace before landing. It had no warhead, but it spooked the Pakistanis. They could not believe that something like this could have been a mistake. Why didn't America like it? America did not like the S-400 because America thought that India was going to the Russian camp. Nothing could be further from the truth. But this is what the Americans believed. They said that, well, you can buy the latest from us and we'll give it to you. But the thing with the Russians is that we trade in rupees with the Russians. We pay the Russians rupees when we buy from them. And the S-400 is the finest air defense system in the world. For a moment, America rattled its sabers and said they will sanction India under CAATSA. But then after a few months, came the expected waiver. America realizes that America needs India to counter China. And China realizes that there is no bigger impediment, no bigger danger to its global ambitions than India. India is at China's doorstep. India, a country of 1.35 billion people. India, with an A-grade military, a rising economic superpower. Only India can look China in the eye and call China's bluff. This is exactly what we did in Doklam. This is exactly what we did in Galwan. And China knows when it confronts India what is coming. So why is India buying all these weapons? Let me be very categorical and frank. People from the Foreign Office may say that India needs it for its defense, which is also true. The armed forces may say that we need to upgrade our defense infrastructure. We need to upgrade our weapons and equipment. That is also true. But I will tell you what I believe. I believe India has global ambitions. I believe India wants to be a global leader. When India says that it wants to become a Vishwaguru, it is not just talking about intellectual pursuit. It's not just talking about soft power. India is also talking about hard power. And hard power comes from the military. And let me explain how and why. I've often said this and I'll say this again. When you go and negotiate with another country, that other country must know how powerful you are. Global diplomacy is also a game of brinksmanship. It is also a game of good relations and how far you can push the envelope. For too long, the Indian military has remained on the sidelines, while global diplomacy was the preserve of the Foreign Office. And I must admit that the Foreign Office did a pretty fine job. But if we want to align ourselves to the world, if we want to counter China, if we want to counter adversaries, it is important to bring the military into our negotiating power, if I may say, the entire power profile of how India negotiates diplomatically. Military diplomacy is something new to India. It was never practiced in India before, but it started now under the Modi regime. And now it's picking up with a vengeance. What does military bring to the table when we talk about diplomacy? Today, I'm going to be extremely candid and frank. My friends what the military brings to the table is fear. And fear is an excellent weapon when you want to negotiate with either a friend or an adversary. It is said, bhai bin hoy na preet, which means that there is no friendship without fear. I've said it in the past and I'll say it again. When the Prime Minister of India negotiates with another power, the head of state of the other country must know that somewhere behind in the oceans lurks INS Arihant, a nuclear submarine. The ability to tell the other nation that we have the capability, or the capability to inform, communicate to the other nation that while we have friendly intentions, but if things go from bad to us, we have the capability of visiting violence at your doorstep. This is a capability that India seeks. For too long, we have depended on just yoga. We have depended on the magic of our herbal medicine, of Ayurveda. We have depended on the legends of the Kama Sutra. We have depended on Indian food, Indian music. We have depended on Bollywood. And these have stood us in good stead over a period of years. But today, it is time. In this new century, it is time for India to project hard power. And what I'm going to tell you, the weapon systems that I'm going to discuss are about projection of that hard power. So, why do we need weapons? Why is India arming itself at such a rapid pace? Much of our legacy equipment, almost 60-65% of it, is of Soviet/Russian origin. Some of our helicopters are more than half a century old. The technology is half a century old. This equipment, while it is good for day-to-day work, but operationally speaking, much of it is outdated. And the previous governments, and it is with a great degree of sadness that I say this, previous governments did not bother about modernizing the armed forces like they should. You know, we are surrounded by two neighbors. It's not just about China to the north and China to the east. It's not just about Pakistan to the north and Pakistan to the west. That's not the problem. The problem is China to the north and China to the east, and China to the north and China to the west. Pakistan is nothing but a Chinese proxy. Pakistan itself has no military identity. It does what it's told by China. Today, China is funding Pakistan whether through CPEC, which is the flagship venture of the Belt and Road Initiative, or giving Pakistan loans that Pakistan cannot afford. But the fact of the matter is that the Chinese know very well that the Pakistanis cannot say no. So the Chinese use territory not just in Pakistan, but also in Myanmar and other countries neighboring India to send in forces inimical to India. And China has given full protection to Pakistan in this. There was a time when India wanted to blacklist Maulana Masood Azhar in the United Nations, and it was China that was blocking this initiative by India. Why would China block India's attempt to blacklist a terrorist and blacklist a terrorist organization? Why would China even be remotely interested in a terrorist who's causing harm to India, a terrorist who is responsible for the Pulwama attacks? But China did that, not once, but time and again. So, again, why is India arming itself? Yes, India wants to become a global power. It's true that India has enemies on the east and on the west. But it's also true that India wants external projection of its military might, which is why India is looking at military bases abroad. Now, I have compiled a list of the weapon systems that India has already bought or is signed for and is bringing from outside or manufacturing inside India. The first one for the army is the AK-203. Now, the AK-203 is the latest in line of the Kalashnikov weapon systems. You're aware that the AK-47, the grandfather of all the AK series of weapons, was launched and shown to the world as part of the Russian forces, the Soviet forces in 1947, hence the name AK-47. AK-203, as I said, is the latest variant, and it is supposed to replace the 5.56 mm INSAS. Now, what is wrong with the INSAS? INSAS, the Indian Small Arms Systems 5.56, is a rifle that the Indian Armed Forces use. Why are they being replaced? They're being replaced because they're bad rifles. There is no other way to say it. the INSAS is a terrible rifle. Now, there will be many people who will not like this statement and say that no, it has stood us in good stead in Kargil. That's not true. We could have given our forces better weapons for Kargil. What won Kargil was the grit of the young Indian officer and the Indian Jawan. That is why we have Kargil Vijay Divas. It was certainly not because of the INSAS 5.56. Now, this rifle jams. This rifle cannot deliver a terminal blow to an adversary. If you shoot somebody at 300 yards, 400 yards with an INSAS, you can't be sure if a person is dead. This is a heavy, unwieldy weapon with a plastic magazine that tends to crack. Sometimes when you fire, you have oil coming out of the rifle into your eye, onto your face. This is a rifle which is accurate, and of that there is no doubt. But this rifle is not effective. I will tell you because I've used this rifle for a long time. When we were in the academy, we were not taught the INSAS. We were taught with the 7.62 mm SLR or the self-loading rifle. We later on came to the INSAS. In the YO course or the Young Officers course, which happens in Mau, which I attended in 1994, is the first time that I had a clear look at what the INSAS looks like. It looked very good because it was smaller than the SLR, better looking than the carbine. But then slowly we realized that it is not a rifle that will stand you in good stead operationally. The Indian Army has been crying hoarse about the need for replacing this rifle, and finally it is being replaced. They are setting up a factory somewhere in Amethi, and from there, with collaboration with the Kalashnikov concern, which is the company in Russia that manufactures the Kalashnikov, they're going to manufacture these AK-203 rifles and give it to the Army, Navy and Air Force. And maybe some paramilitary forces or CPOs like the BSF, CRPF, should they ask for it. But the fact of the matter is, why did we choose INSAS in the first place? Well, at that time, the thinking was that NATO uses 5.56 and so should we. So we started using 5.56. We also thought that rather than killing an enemy, the best way would be to wound the enemy. At least that was what was told to me when I was in the army. That wound the enemy, so rather than dying, you see, there are 3-4 people required to carry the enemy outside the battlefield and carry him to the hospital. An enemy who's alive and screaming and kicking and shouting in pain also lowers the morale of his own brothers, of his own comrades. And this was the thinking behind the 5.56. I'm sure there are many other things that were related to this, but this is what I personally know. Well, it didn't pan out so well. And many times in Kashmir, in the earlier years, it was realized that you shoot a terrorist, but with the 5.56, he does not stay dead. There have been cases in which terrorists have been shot and they have gotten up and moved away. It does not, as I said before, deliver a terminal blow. Hence, we went for the AK-203. AK-203 uses a 7.62 into 39 mm ammunition, and once you hit your enemy with an AK, he stays hit. You kill him, he stays dead. That is the point of an AK-47, and this is what the AK will deliver now. The second thing is the India-made Israeli Tavor X95. Now, already the CRPF and the BSF are using this rifle. It's a wonderful rifle. And this is something that the Israelis, this technology was shared by the Israelis and we're making it. This is a wonderful rifle that they use. The Indian Army, to the best of my knowledge, does not use this. The Indian Army uses the Tavor. And especially the special forces, the para commandos, the para SF, they use the Tavor. It has a bullpup design. A bullpup design essentially means that the magazine is behind the trigger. Normally you will see, especially in case of an AK-47, you will see that the magazine is ahead of the trigger. In a bullpup, the magazine is behind the trigger. So it makes for more accuracy and a more compact weapon system when you fire that weapon. So the India-made Israeli Tavor X95 rifle. Then radio tactical, we are using old legacy items for communication now. India is manufacturing DRDO with a lot of Indian companies. They are making the latest in-class radio equipment. We have the latest satellite imagery and satellite communication at our disposal. And from my time, when I was in the army, the communication system was pretty primitive. Now it's improved. For the last 10-15 years, it's improved by leaps and bounds. And especially lately, it's really come up very well. So this is something that we need to give to the army. The ability of the army to network itself, the ability to fight as a singular network. So everybody knows what is going on in that battlefield space. This system will help in that. We have the Arjun Mark 1. The Arjun Mark 1 Alpha, more than 100 tanks. The orders for more than 100 tanks were given, and the Arjun is a good tank. It's been in the making, in the process of improvement for a very, very long time. There were a lot of complaints against the Arjun at one point in time, that it is too heavy. Many of the parts of Arjun are imported. I'm talking about 20 years back, 25, 30 years back. And I saw Arjun for the first time in 1994 in the Mahajan field firing ranges. I saw, there is a road in Mahajan field firing ranges. I wonder if the road is still there, but during my time it was called Arjun Path. And while driving down Arjun Path in an old Jonga, in an old RCL Jonga, Indian Army issue, that was the first time I saw the Arjun tank. It looked magnificent to me, because till then I had only seen T-72s, and then suddenly out comes the Arjun, and honestly speaking looks like a Ferrari in front of a T-72. So, but they had many complaints about the Arjun, and one complaint which stuck to my mind was that inter-theatre movement was very difficult because of the railway tracks, and the Arjun was too heavy and it was too wide and it could not cross certain bridges. I don't know the exact reason why it was rejected by the army, but now I believe some of the objections have been sorted out, and the ordnance factories are again manufacturing the Arjun, and the order for 100 plus odd Arjun tanks has been given, and this is good. It conforms to the government's ambition of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we should be able to make world-class tanks for ourselves. A lot of people after the Ukraine war have been saying that, you know, tank warfare is dead. That's not true, actually. That's not true. You know, one war and we say this system is dead. One conflict and we say, oh, the rifle is outdated. One small conflict and we say that no, artillery is of no use and everything is going to be on the computer. You know, all these are suppositions by people who assume the worst or the best in any scenario. I think the tank is still useful. It delivers the final punch in battle. When you have enemy infrastructure in front of you and you want to punch through, it is only the tank that has the ability to punch through it. It is only the artillery, you know, that can smash and pulverize the opposition, and the complete infrastructure of the enemy is only the infantry that can hold ground. So I think these will remain relevant. However, this is how it is, and how can we forget the M777? You know, the M777 is a howitzer, is a 155 mm gun, which is, I will not say it is replacing the Bofors, but in many places it can be lifted by a Chinook helicopter. It can be taken in high altitude areas. It is light, it is effective, it is one of the best medium guns in the business today. The Bofors is equally good, and one of the reasons why India performed so well in the Kargil war is because of Bofors. But in a few years, the Bofors technology is going to be half a century old. Bofors was bought in the mid-80s, if I'm not mistaken, and it's already 35 years, 40 years plus. And this technology in a few years is going to be almost half a century old. So it's high time we got new systems. This is not to take away anything from Bofors. I think it's a crack shot of a system. I think it's a crack shot of a gun. And I have seen Bofors firing in front of me. I was in Devlali and I saw Bofors firing, extremely accurate, excellent. But the fact of the matter is that there are better weapon systems available today, and M777 is the best of the best. We have the Agni 5 missile that has been tested, Agni Prime also, which has the ability, they're calling it the intercontinental ballistic missile, has the ability to travel 5,000 to 8,000 kilometers. Some say maybe more. They say that the range of Agni is actually being hidden because it is confidential, it is secret. But Agni is something that has badly spooked China. I don't know why it has spooked Pakistan, because Agni has nothing to do with Pakistan. Pakistan we can deal with a Prithvi missile. Agni is more China specific. You know, some say it can reach Europe, but that is hardly what we want to do. We want to be able to touch Beijing, and Agni touches Beijing. We have the Pinaka rocket systems. I'm sure you've seen in army field firing videos that you often see on social media or on television, multi-barrel rocket launchers. Now, Pinaka essentially is a Sanskrit word which means the bow of Lord Shiva. This is an indigenous system that has been designed by the DRDO and manufactured in India. And the Pinaka rockets have various ranges, and they say that 60 kilometers, even 80 kilometers the Pinaka can reach. And the Pinaka is a deadly system. It can saturate with fire an area of 800 meters into 800 meters, or 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, and turn that area into ash. This is what the Pinaka does, and the Pinaka is being inducted into the Indian Army at a furious and a rapid pace. About the Indian Air Force, we all know about the Rafale. We know why it's important. Actually, the Indian Air Force is supposed to have 42 squadrons. If we have to deal with China and Pakistan, we need 42 squadrons. But unfortunately, because of various factors, because of the bureaucracy within the system, because of our own faults maybe, we are down to 28/30 squadrons. And if there is war on two fronts, if there is a two-front war, we will be hard-pressed to use the Indian Air Force to the best of their capability. It's a wonderful organization, and the Indian Air Force has amongst the best pilots in the world. But what good are pilots if they don't have planes? And this is something that the country needs to do. So 36 Rafales, and also getting more light combat aircraft in terms of Tejas. Now, apart from the Rafale, there is the MMRCA, the medium multi-role combat aircraft. I think 126 were supposed to be ordered, and there was Gripen, which was Gripen, and there were a series of MiGs that were in contention. The F series of the American aircrafts also pitched in. There was the Eurofighter, the Rafale. Now, everybody wants a piece of this. It's possibly more than $20 billion US, one of the largest defense contracts that any country will ever give. India wants this to be manufactured in India, and rightly so. It is aligned to Atmanirbhar Bharat. It will mean transfer of technology. So these 126 aircraft, I have already spoken about how we are getting more Tejas. Tejas is being accepted in quite a lot of countries, and quite a lot of countries have shown interest in buying the Tejas. Then you have the AMCA, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, to build a 5th generation stealth jet. This is also in the works. It'll take a lot of time, frankly, because all aircraft planning and manufacturing and research and development takes a lot of time. It is not something that even a battle rifle takes a lot of time, but this is an aircraft with the latest software and the latest hardware. So this is expected to take a lot of time, but it will happen. And India has finally got its act together, and it says that we will manufacture a stealth 5th generation aircraft. Long range guided bombs, 500 kg class precision bombs. These are also something that India is manufacturing. And advanced shaft technology. Shaft is something that, when you have a heat seeking missile or an anti-aircraft missile, you press a button, the pilot presses a button, the shaft comes out of the aircraft, and the missile is, it is sort of diverted, it is confused. My pilot friends from the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy must be laughing, because I am from the Army and I don't understand this technology very well, but this is a layman's explanation for you. And coming to the Indian Navy, INS Vela you've heard of. INS Vela is there, and then we have INS Vikrant, which is about to be launched this very month. The INS Vikrant will be operational. People are talking about INS Virat, a 3rd aircraft carrier, but I'm not sure. I've heard rumors, but I'm not sure. I've read 1 or 2 articles, but nothing substantial that I can bring to the table today and tell you that yes, this is being done. But as far as INS Vikrant is concerned, INS Vikrant is going to be launched in August 2022. A magnificent aircraft made in India. AK-203 is something that the Navy is very keen on, and they're getting, like we're getting AK-203 in the Army, the Navy people are getting AK-103, again an excellent weapon system. Then we have the 15 Bravo class INS Vishakhapatnam, another destroyer which is coming in. This is something that the Navy was very keen on. It's finally there. Talwar class frigates, or Project 11356. The Navy has very complicated names for its projects. Project 11356. And then there is the naval anti-drone system. Apart from this, there are a lot of drones, swarm drones that the Army, Navy and Air Force are getting into. A lot of systems like the Guardian or the Reaper, armed drones. India is again buying the Heron armed drones from Israel, and many of these systems are coming in. So we have briefly touched upon, and this is by no means a comprehensive list, because we would require another program or maybe 2 programs just to discuss all the weapon systems that India is buying. But from the Navy, I can tell you that 34 ships are being made in India. 34 ships are being made in India. This was told to me by a senior serving naval officer 2 years back. So many of the ships are going to be delivered shortly. I've already mentioned the aircraft carrier. And again, to reiterate, why is India doing this? India is doing this because India has global ambitions. India is surrounded by 2 nuclear armed neighbors with which it has fought wars. India needs to protect its interests, and in today's world, It is no longer, you know, there was time when there was only America and USSR. With the fall of the USSR, then there was only America. For a very long time, America was the sole superpower. Later on, what happened was you had America and China, especially in the last 20 years, we saw the rise of China. Now, I think we are moving to a multipolar world. We are moving to a world where there are no fixed power centers, it's up for grabs. And India is a superpower in the making. India is an economic superpower and a military superpower in the making. And India has a lot of goodwill. You go to Afghanistan, you go to Sri Lanka, you go to so many countries. Ask the common people there. Forget about the government. I'm not talking about the government. The common people love India. And that is India's true power. Backed with these weapons, backed with an A-grade, professionally led armed force. There is no stopping India. Thank you for watching Checkmate. Have a great weekend. I'll see you around next week. Jai Hind.